Tonight, after you finish this video, you go outside. No phone, no lighter, no clothes that weren't made by hand, no house to come back to. You're standing on a savanna 40,000 years ago, and you have one job: survive until sunrise. Most people think they'd manage. A few hours of discomfort, a little fear, and then morning. The truth is your ancestors would have buried you by lunch, and the reasons why are going to make you see them, and yourself, completely differently. Let's start at sunset, because that's when your night begins. You arrive on the savanna with maybe an hour of light left. The first thing you notice is how quiet it is. No engines, no voices, no hum of anything electrical. Just wind and somewhere, faintly, the sound of an animal you can't see. You look around. You're going to need shelter. You're going to need fire. You're going to need food eventually, but food can wait. Cold and predators can't. So you start walking, looking for somewhere to spend the night. And almost immediately you start making mistakes you don't even know you're making. You walk too far from cover because you don't realize how fast the sun drops in this part of the world. You don't look at the ground because nothing in your modern life has trained you to read it for tracks. You don't notice the small signs your ancestors would have read instantly: the broken grass where something heavy passed, the smell of an animal that's been here recently, the change in birdsong that tells you a predator is nearby. To you, the savanna is scenery. To them, it was a constant stream of information. They knew things by looking at the ground that you wouldn't understand if someone explained it to you for an hour. Then the sun goes down, and the first real problem starts. You'd expect the danger to be predators. It's not. The danger is the temperature. The savanna can lose more than 20 degrees of heat in a single hour after sunset, and you are wearing almost nothing. Your body, which has spent its entire life inside climate-controlled rooms, has no idea what to do. You start to shiver. You wrap your arms around yourself. You crouch down to lose less surface area. And it doesn't help much because you're already wet from the sweat of walking, and a wet human in cold air loses heat far faster than a dry one. Hypothermia doesn't need snow. It just needs you in the dark, in a wind you weren't expecting, with no way to warm up. This is when you would reach for fire, and this is when you would learn something humiliating. You don't know how to make fire. Not really. You know the words friction, spark, tinder, the same way you know the words for surgery without being able to perform it. The actual skill of generating fire from raw materials is a multi-step craft your ancestors started learning as small children, and most modern humans, even ones who say they could figure it out, have never produced a single spark with their own hands. You scrape stones together. You rub a stick on dry wood. You try the things you've seen in videos. You get warm from the effort. You don't get fire, and the cold keeps coming. But let's say you got lucky. Let's say you found a half-collapsed shelter, or a hollow under some rocks, or even a small cave. You crawl in, you curl up. You're still cold, but you're alive. Now the second problem begins: the dark. You have never in your entire life experienced real darkness. The kind of darkness that existed before electricity is something almost no modern person has ever seen. On a savanna with no moon, you genuinely cannot see your own hand in front of your face. Not dim, not shadowy, black. Your eyes will adjust some, but without a fire, without a screen, without any light anywhere on the horizon, you are essentially blind. And here is where the predators stop being a punchline, because most large nocturnal hunters can see in light levels you cannot register at all. Leopards, hyenas, lions, their eyes are built for this, yours are not. To them, you are not hidden. You are sitting in a slightly darker shape of the same scene they've been watching for hours. This is the part of the night your ancestors solved by sitting around a fire together. The fire wasn't just warmth, it was light, which gave them sight, and it was a circle of safety that almost no predator would cross. Inside the firelight, you were almost untouchable. Outside it, you were food. You, without fire, are outside it. So you sit in the dark, listening, and every sound becomes the thing that's going to kill you. Most of the sounds aren't anything, but you have no way to tell. And by hour 3, you have not slept, you cannot stop shivering, and you have started to make small wrong decisions because your brain is running out of fuel. Now imagine doing this for 9 more hours. Here's the part most people don't expect. Even if you survive the night, even if nothing eats you, even if you don't freeze, you might not be okay in the morning. Because the human body, after a single night of severe cold and no sleep, doesn't bounce back the way modern life has trained you to think it does. Cold for that long suppresses your immune system. No sleep impairs your thinking for days. Dehydration sneaks up on you because you weren't drinking. And on top of all of it, you're now exhausted. On an empty stomach, in unfamiliar terrain, with no fire and no tools, and the sun is about to come up over the savanna where the daytime predators hunt. Your night isn't over. Your night was the easy part. The next thing you have to figure out is how to make it to the night after that, and so on for the rest of a life nobody trained you to live. This is the part that should stop you, because everything you just imagined struggling with, the cold, the dark, the fire, the predators, the sleep, the water, your ancestors solved as a baseline before lunch. They didn't think about it. The way you don't think about turning on a tap or flipping a light switch, they didn't think about reading the wind, building a shelter from branches, banking a fire to last the night, or knowing exactly which sounds in the dark are nothing and which one means you stand up right now and don't make noise. All of that was already inside them by the time they were old enough to walk. They lived an entire life of knowledge so deep it had become invisible to them. And you, born thousands of years later into a world that does almost all of this for you, have never had to learn any of it. But it's worth being honest here. This isn't really about who's tougher. You aren't soft because you can't make fire from a stick. They weren't superhuman because they could. They were just trained from birth in the exact world they had to survive in, and you are trained from birth in the exact world you have to survive in. Drop one of them into your day, into traffic, into a job interview, into a hospital, into the internet, and they would die in their own way, just as fast. The difference isn't strength, it's that the world you were trained for is, for most of us, designed to keep you alive almost no matter what you do. The world they were trained for was designed to kill them at every opportunity, and they had to know everything just to come out the other side. Which is why the next time you flip a light switch tonight, or feel warm air come out of a vent, or open a tap and clean water just appears, it's worth a second of attention. Every one of those things is a quiet substitute for a skill your ancestors had to know in their bones for hundreds of thousands of years. You don't have to know any of them. That isn't laziness. That isn't decline. That is the most extraordinary inheritance any species has ever received. You were given a world that does the surviving for you so that you could spend your hours on things they couldn't have imagined. They built that gift across 10,000 generations of nights you would not have survived. So tomorrow, you'll wake up in a bed, in a warm room, with light when you want it, water when you want it, food whenever you want it. And somewhere deep underneath all of that is the quiet fact that for almost every human who ever lived, none of this was possible. And one night without it was a fight they had to win. They won enough of those nights that you exist. The least you can do is notice the bed,